But he becomes obsessed with Manwë, and that kind of strings him along into what he does. And all he wants to do is dominate Arda going forward. But it all begins with the disturbance of his music. I found it was interesting that Tolkien decided that the creation of the world was done through music. It's a very interesting way to go about it, and it has a lot to do with his love of language. But yeah,
Yeah, I think one thing, maybe this is just because you just mentioned the love of language. I'll admit, the first time when you see the Lord of the Rings in the Fellowship, when Gandalf says, "You shall not pass to the Balrog," right? And you think, this guy's a wizard. Why is he just, just shouting, "You shall not pass"? But when you read deeper into the Tolkien lore, you understand that words itself have so much power in his universe.
yeah,
So for him to just say something like that, "You shall not pass," if you now apply that context of what you know how Tolkien valued the words, it's equivalent to casting a very powerful defense spell, you could almost say.
yeah, absolutely.
Blocking him. But I'm guessing, oh, when Melkor was, he kind of disrupted the music, he also was pretty successful at corrupting the other Maiar and what we will call the Valar, right?
Yeah.
The greater spirits of, can you call them divinity, I guess? I mean, I'm not sure what would be the right
Yeah,
term,
sure. And
but
they're called Umar when they are corrupted by him officially, and it gets extremely confusing as to who these corrupted beings are, because you could have a very long list, but some of it is conjecture. It's a lot of speculation, because everyone needs to remember, aside from The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, nothing is technically canon. Tolkien never published any of these
it
notes. These are
was
all
it's
secondary.
it's Christopher and published by Christopher
Yeah.
Tolkien.
And many others after him. I mean, the grandson also. And then there's famous Tolkien scholars. There's what's her name? Karen something wrote Nature of Middle Earth, which is a book I use extensively because she does a lot of homework trying to look into the geography of Middle Earth and basically trying to answer questions that Tolkien never even bothered to answer, like how were some of these populations fed? Like tens of thousands of people in an underground city, for example. It kind of doesn't make sense, right? But she did a lot of work. I forget the name of the authors, excuse me. But yeah, there's a lot of people who've done a lot of work on this. Yeah.
I know, and I think that kind of makes it just so interesting. And I think when the world was revealed, right, as we know as Arda,
Yeah.
and we know not all of the greater spirits went, so those that remained and in the halls of Iluvatar, as we could say, were known as the Ainur, and
Yeah.
then Melkor, Manwë, Varda, Tulkas, all these guys that end up going there, they become the Valar.
Yeah.
And I think it was at this point also, Iluvatar did mention that his children have already been uh, feeded to the world, right? They are already
They
ready. They just
and
have to
it's
wake
yeah.
up.
And it's honest. I don't think we should even get into this conversation, but I'll say this to the audience: for those who've read the Silmarillion, perhaps, or those who just read Lord of the Rings, it's extremely complicated how Tolkien tries to explain the relationship. And I'm not gonna use the terms he uses because it'll be too complex, like Fea and stuff and Hura. He uses terms that are representing what is the physical body and the soul, and these are two completely different things in his world, which is very Catholic, mind you. And this is important for Melkor, who becomes Morgoth. These are technically two different beings, if you think about it. But all these greater Ainur, Maiar, Valar beings, if they were to encompass a physical body, it changes everything. And it isn't you're just having a physical body in quote unquote Arda, you're part of Arda a little bit, and you can get trapped within Arda, which is actually what happens to Morgoth. That's kind of his downfall. And it gets more complicated than that, but I'll leave that in the background.
All right. I think maybe let's get into the first major race or species, right? The elves, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they had already been fed into the world by Iluvatar,
The firstborn, but not the
the
first to
firstborn.
wake up. Yeah.
True. And we know that Varda created the stars, right?
Yeah.
As a beacon. Like you could say they're literally the North Star for us. Like I think that's the
Yeah.
best way. For them to come to the light of the trees, because by now Melkor has corrupted a lot of the land and he hates the elves. He absolutely despises them only because his father created them. That's pretty much the
Yeah.
main reason. Again, the first most powerful Dark Lord was a guy with daddy issues.
Certainly did.
But maybe you could just give a bit of information about the three factions, like just at a very high level, because I know there's only one house and faction that really, really feeds into the story, and we'll get to them.
All
But yeah,
right. Can you see the picture I'm putting up, which is
yep.
the so this is a individual who went through the painstaking process of trying to make a coherent tree graph of the sundering of the
Oh,
elves.
oh my god, this is so helpful in understanding it.
Yeah, that's why I was gonna say if you're not watching this, you should just watch this on YouTube because
this,
this is
this
difficult.
at least
Yeah.
for this particular image.
Oh, whoops! One sec. I
Yeah.
lost the ability to control it for a second there. Oh, how do I? Oh my God, we're okay.
Sorry, folks. It's the first time we are using Riverside, so bear with us as we try to learn the use of it.
Here, I'm just gonna share again so I retain the ability to zoom in. Okay, there we go. Yeah, it's just because for me, your camera is right over some of them. But anyways,
Fair enough.
so the sundering, for those to understand, that's like the dividing of these houses. Think of it as evolution. So there is a group of elves that emerge. They awaken, and what we'll call the East in Arda. We'll call it Middle Earth in a place that you don't really need to know about because it's never really talked about again, except for like when other people wake
Forgo-
up.
Forgotten.
Yeah, but this group they get divided because of what you're saying. There's these stars that are put up, and it's basically a beacon that they are supposed to come west. They're going to go to the undying lands of Man, where all the Valinor, where all of the angelic spirits are basically, and it's
And
yeah,
if I'm not mistaken, it was because Orome, the hunter spirit of the Valar, found them because he was the only Valar that kind of really
yeah,
still was on this continent and not
exactly.
in Valinor.
Yeah. And the elves are not aware of any of this, right? They're not born with this
Yeah.
awareness of who the creator was and all this. So, like you said, Melkor, which he does, this is what he does always. He comes over and he lies to them and he tries to corrupt them against the will of Iluvatar. This is basically his thing. That's what he does.
Uh, yeah, actually, I remember reading someone or hearing someone say that he's never created. Iluvatar created
Yes.
the race of men
He can
and the
only mold,
elves.
like, corrupt things. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at least
He,
Alway created the dwarves, so I'm gonna give him that.
Exactly. Yeah. So I've actually run into this because of just the English language. If I'm writing a script about the first age, it's like, oh, Morgoth did not create trolls. He corrupted perhaps Ents into trolls or some other being we don't know that made trolls. Like in Tolkien's notes, trolls are a twisted version of Ents to like make fun of them, whereas orcs was to make fun of elves or perhaps humans later.
Yeah, I think that's literally mentioned in the I
Yeah.
think Fellowship when Saruman
Yes.
explains it to one of the Urukai when he says how the first orcs came into being.
Exactly. Because to make things so much more complicated, not only is the Silmarillion and other works like this secondhand note information,